Hey everyone, welcome back to coloring class, and today we're going to talk about supplies and some of the difficulties that come up when you're coloring gems. So, first thing is supplies. I have artist quality colored pencils. I have a whole bunch of knickknacks and doodly-wags that help me color because this is my business. This is what I do, and it's something that I love and I do all the time. So when you look at that, yes, do I have amazing stuff? I sure do. Does that mean you have to in order to color gems? Great. No. Which is one of the points of this video. We're going to talk about supplies. We're also going to talk about some of the issues that people have come up against, like the reflected light, the borders, the edges, the highlights, all that kind of stuff, and maybe answer a few of the questions you've had that the other videos didn't answer. So, first things first. These are praying pencils. These are a student grade, not an artist grade. They are pretty cheap to get just about anywhere you go. They're very much like Crayolas or Crazy Arts. And I have yellow, I have yellow green, I have regular green, and pine green. The biggest pack they come in is like a 50 pack. It has lovely colors. They're very vibrant. I like them. They're a simple wax-based pencil that you would get for your kid for elementary school. So this is what we're coloring with today, and I'm doing it with the purpose to show you that it doesn't matter if you have Prismacolors or if you have Faber-Castell Polychromos or if you have Crayola or Crazy Art or Prings. It doesn't matter. You can still get really great results no matter what you have. So, with that being said, let's make a really pretty gem and talk about some of the ways to get the effects that you want. One of the things I always try to do in my gems is layer, because that's how you're going to get vibrancy, and that's how you're going to get some of the brightness of the colored gems. And while we're doing layers and layering these colors on top of another, we're going to talk about the reflected light. That's here and here on our other ones. And we talked a little bit about that's where the light comes down, hits the bottom, and is reflected back into your eye. What I see a whole bunch is that people kind of like mark out a spot, and then this stays white, and then everything else gets colored. And when that happens, you're not going to get like a gradual blend into it, and sometimes it seems very, very difficult for people to do that. So what I want to talk to you about is doing little circles, which is in your pressure. When I'm talking about pressure, I mean how much pressure are you putting on that pencil to get into the paper. And when you're doing this, if you have a hard time with your hands, I totally understand. There's a lot of people that do. But put the pencil on the paper. You don't need to push hard, just enough enough pressure to keep the pencil on the paper. Not enough to like press really, really hard. You just want to go back and forth, or around and around little circles, and you're just putting enough pressure to keep the pencil on the paper. That's all you're doing. You're not pushing down on it, you're not burnishing, you're not even trying to blend anything, okay? You're just putting your pencil on the paper and enough pressure to keep the pencil on the paper. That's as light as your coloring has to be down here, because you just want to get some color down. You're not trying to do anything other than that. Just get your base color down and make sure that there aren't hard edges. You know, yes, I have left a little bit of white, but can you see hard edges? Not really. And that's really what you want to go for. Okay? So then you want to go on to your next layer. And remember, gems take time. You know, and if if you don't want to spend the time on the gem, you just want to go through and just color really fast, great, do it. Here's the thing, you still don't need to put a whole bunch of pressure, okay? You're just wanting to put color down. And you don't want to do it in a way that is making really hard lines anywhere, honestly. You want it to be soft. Use the side of your pencil. There you go. Use the side of your pencil. Okay? You just want to be really, really soft. You can hold it like way up here if you want, just to help you not put so much pressure on it. Okay? And so we're going to go over here. Remember, our entire goal right now is to just make the layers and the buildup of the color and to make gradation in the color. And gradation is just going from one color to another. So we're just trying to go from yellow to our dark greens up here, which is where we're going to have our highlight, okay? So that's all we're doing right here. And don't worry, we're going to come back in and we'll have a couple more layers. We can bring up the yellow if we want more yellow. And this is our green. We're up to our third color. This is just regular green. And we're just holding it way up here and just putting enough pressure to hold the pencil onto the paper. Not putting a lot of pressure at all. We're just doing layers. If you need more control on your pencil, definitely, choke up on your pencil a little bit. I am going out a little bit here and there. But you can choke up on your pencil and you can go in like little circles. No real pressure. That way you can have a little bit more control. You're just going in light layers and light layers and light layers. Until you get the hang of how much pressure to put down. As you have more layers, you can use more pressure if you really want to. This is our darkest green. This is pine green. And I'm just going to go around my edges mostly. And still, not a lot of pressure. Don't want to do that right now. Just putting a little bit. I know it looks like I'm probably gripping the pencil pretty hard. I grip my pencils way too hard. But that's just a personal thing. I'm not putting pressure down. I'm just putting pressure on the pencil. So we're just going to go around our edges. Because remember, we're going to have our darker edges to make things pop off the page. And go around this way. I'm still trying not to make my edges with hard lines because I want them to fade all in, blend everything together. If you have a blender, one of the colorless blender pencils, or if you do the mineral spirits or the baby oil or the Vaseline, you can absolutely use that. There will be a whole series about that I'm going to do just on blending materials as well as just coloring gems, just so you can get the help that you maybe need, or maybe that you just want to become more proficient at coloring. Okay, so I'm bringing this dark green down here just a little because I do want to make sure that I do have darker edges. Okay, now this is a very light gem right now, which is awesome. And I'm going to use a little bit more pressure up here. And going around my edges again. Because I want to start making this gem a little bit more vibrant. And start covering a little bit more of the paper. And I want to begin making it more of a gem and less of a coloring. If you understand what that means. I don't know if I'm even making sense. But I want it to look more real and less like a coloring. So we're starting to build our volume on our gem, making it more 3D, less 2D. And so I'm building and building and building. And when we're doing the edges real dark, that's pushing the edges down, pushing them down and creating that volume out of our 2D space that we're working on here. And I'm going to keep this gem pretty light. I don't want to do a whole bunch of dark in here. So, okay, we're going to go back to our regular green. This is our regular green. It's our third color that we were using. We're going to go around in some more layers, and I'm not pushing hard. I'm pushing a little bit harder than I was earlier, but not a lot. Okay? And so I'm just going back and forth and back and forth, and you can hear I'm just scratching away on the paper. I usually cover like color, I should say, on this. This is cardstock. It's very smooth. It doesn't have a lot of tooth on the paper, but it's the surface of it is very much like copy paper in the smoothness quality. It doesn't have a lot of tooth or anything else. So if you're worried about paper being an issue, it's really not. If you have something like this down here is watercolor paper, and you can kind of see the difference, and it has a lot more tooth to grab onto things, whereas this has a lot less tooth. Personally, I just really, really like smooth surfaces to color on. That's just a personal preference. If you like more tooth, you can get a lot more layers. It will just take you a lot more blending, and you probably need a blending medium to get a smoother gradient, because you have to deal with all of the tooth of the paper and getting into all the nooks and crannies. So I'm just trying to get some more coverage up here, which is all I'm really doing. And then we're going to move back down to our yellow-green. And then I'm going to be going over all of this some more and into our yellow as we go down. And we're just building the volume and building the color of the gem. And I get really, really light pressure here because I don't want to ruin our white spot or anything. I think that's as far as I want to go in. Get some down here. And then I'm going to go back to my yellow, which is just yellow. And I'm going to brighten all of this in here. And it will also help to blend into our white and such. And you can go over the white. It's not going to damage your gem. It's not going to make it horrible or anything else like that. And so there you go. Got a nice bright spot. And then you can blend out as much as you want with your yellow. If you want to go in and take a white pencil for help with blending or anything, you definitely can. Let's do that and see what we get. Let me find my white pencil real quick. I actually have no idea if I can. Here he is. This is the white Prang. I generally stick to one type of color pencil at a time. And you can go in and you can begin blending with it, since it doesn't really have a color. And like I said, these are wax-based pencils, and I'm actually pushing decently hard now, just trying to blend everything together. And so I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can blend the whole gem, see if it gives it a nice overall tone. Kind of unifies the gem a little bit. I'm not pushing too hard, and just a little bit, enough to move the wax around and push it into some of the little crevices that I might have missed going over it and just making the layers. So, there we go. Okay, so now we have that. Now, let's talk about our edges and our cracks. With the edges, I do want to make them darker because I don't feel like it's popping off the page as much as I would like it to. And I don't feel like there's enough gradation around the edges for that. So, I'm going to come in here. And much like the pressure of the white that I was using, I'm just using enough pressure to get another layer of pencil on there. not enough to really do anything else other than that. I'm not burnishing the paper. I'm not pushing down, so I'm flattening the tooth of the paper or anything. There we go. Just wanting to make the edges dark enough to really get some of that volume back in there, so that we have that. Okay. And if you want to go back in and do an entire another layer of color, you can do that as well. Got some little hairs going on there. And what that will also do is just help to bring out the vibrancy of the gem, make more layers of color, make your gem more rich and intense, depending on how many layers of color you really want to do. That's really all it will do. Okay, I like that the way it is. I really do. I can see that there's little lines here, and that's okay. Just go the other way, kind of round them out a little bit. Okay, now, I like using either one of the darker colors that I colored the gem with. Occasionally I use black or brown for cracks, but I generally use one of the darkest colors that I colored with. So I'm going to use the pine green, which we use for around the edges. I'm going to sharpen it up to make a nice sharp point. One of the things about the little cracks and whatnot is that I see people do a bunch of these, which, if that's the way you like doing cracks, that's cool. But I have yet to see that kind of a crack in nature, like naturally, in anything other than like rutilated quartz. So what I prefer to do is start on one side and go towards another side and then kind of branch off like tree branches. And you're going to see me press down pretty hard. And then just go over it a couple of times. And then I want to try and go off like I would see tree branches, which kind of end in like little Ys. So I just come out and then I'll just start going in a different direction. And then I often don't go across, like directly across the light spot, but that's just me. If you want to go directly across it, just to make it look like you can see it better, go for it. There's no real rules. I'm just saying the way that I like to do it, because that's the way I see these most of the time in natural gems, which is what I base a lot of my stuff off of, is actually looking at real gems and looking at pictures and reference photos and seeing where shadows are and where they aren't and such like that. So that's the reason I do that. So if you find a beautiful gem that you want to color, pick some really great photos of it and look at it and see what you want to do with it, and where the shadows are. Think about that. Where is the light hitting it? What do the cracks kind of look like? That sort of thing. So there's my gem. I'm looking at it and I think, man, I'd really like the edges to be darker, or I want to brighten the white, or whatever. You can do that. There are a couple of things you can do. If you're looking at the edges, you want them to be darker. You can grab a black, you can grab a dark blue, you can make your edges darker, push them down even farther if you would like. For your white part, your reflected light, if you want to make that extra white, this is a little tiny tip that I do using the Uniball Signo Broad that I have, that I often use for reflections. The ink is very, very gelatinous or whatever, and it stays on top, and I will tap it out after I've scribbled it on there to give it an extra glow. And I don't do that a lot, but sometimes when I don't feel like it's white enough, or if bright enough to create enough contrast in the gem, I will do that. I don't do it a lot though. And then because our light source is coming from right across here, we're going to put our highlight in, and we're going to follow it down this way. Just like that, because our light kind of fades out as we go away from the light source. So remember, you've got to have a space between the edge of the gem and your highlight because you want this to be believable. So I'm going to have some of these coming around, and that's our gem. So remember, follow your edges when you're doing your highlights. Don't put them on the edge, because if they're on the edge, you're not going to be seeing that light coming through. And it's a little less believable. So I prefer to have a little bit of space here. That's just me, preferentially, like I said. If you want to do it a different way, you go for it, girl. Or if you're a dude watching this, you go for it, dude. Like, seriously. But then again, I call lots of people dudes and girls who aren't. Anyway. If you want to go in, this is a colorless blender pencil, and you can do this with one of the color pencils you used as well, and clean up the sides of your highlights. You can do that. I like mine to be really sharp looking, so I do that pretty often. And there you go. So this is the third video in this series of our basic gems. So I hope to see you be doing gems, and I hope you have enjoyed this series, and I would love to see your gems and see you improve. And if you go on and you get the next series of colored videos, I will see you in gem class next time. Talk to you later. Bye.